been waiting way too long. Yeah, I've been down here trying to get it. Yeah, I've been waiting way too long.
This is the video for 2.5. This is going to be our first section on proofs. So we're going to start with algebraic proofs, something that you should be familiar with. So please make sure that all of these properties are in your notebook. I know it's a lot, but you really need to make sure that they're all in your notebook. So the algebraic properties of equality, the addition property says if A equals B, then A plus C equals B plus C. Subtraction, if A equals B, then A minus C equals B minus C. If A equals B, then A times C equals B times C. Division, if A equals B and C does not equal 0, then A over C equals B over C. And substitution, if A equals B, then A can be substituted for B in any equation or expression. So the addition and the subtraction property, we're going to use those when we are solving equations. So when you think about when you do, for instance, a minus 14 on both sides, that's when you would use the subtraction property. So if you have something plus 14 and you're trying to get rid of it and you do minus 14 on both sides, that's where that's going to come into play. Distributive property, we should know this. If you have a quantity times the sum or difference of a quantity, your answer is going to be AB plus AC. Okay, the reflexive property is that for any real number, A equals A. For any segment, AB equals AB. So in other words, it equals itself. Symmetric property is a little bit different. It says if A equals B, then also B equals A. So it's different than the reflexive. And then the transitive says if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. Kind of go from one to the next. So those are the properties that we're going to be using. So now we're going to look at these statements here and we're going to determine what property it is. So JK equals JK. Remember, that's talking about distance. That is the reflexive property. If X plus Y equals 24 and X equals 6, then 6 plus Y equals 24. That is substitution. If X equals 12, then X plus 14 equals 26. This is the addition property, and I'm going to show you how. So we have X equals 12, and then we have X plus 14 equals 26. So what happened here is I used the addition property by adding 14 to both sides. So now if I add 14 to this side, and I add 14 to this side, that's my addition property, which the result of this becomes this when I add the 12 and the 14 to get 26. If P equals 10, then 10 equals P. That is the symmetric property. So again, notice how that's different than the reflexive. If GH, so the distance of GH equals the distance of KL, and KL equals MN, then the distance of GH equals the distance of MN. That is the transitive property. So those are examples of properties. So now we're actually going to do a proof by solving an algebraic equation. So we're going to solve 6y plus 14 equals 38, and we're going to justify each step with these properties that we just talked about. The first is always going to be the given statement. So 6y plus 14 equals 38, that was given. Make sure that you number these so that the statement lines up with the reason. Number 2. So if I were going to solve this algebraically over here, I would do minus 14 on both sides, 6y equals 24, and I would divide by 6, and y would equal 4. Okay, so that's what we're doing, but we need to justify each step. Now, before I use the subtraction property, I want to use the reflexive property. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to say that 14 equals 14. That's reflexive. So if we're saying that 14 is the same as itself, now what we can do is we can subtract it from both sides. So the result of the subtraction is going to be 6y equals 24. So the reflexive was 14 equals 14. So, and then I subtracted the 14, which was the reflexive property. So that left me with 6y equals 24. So I'm going to use the reflexive again. 6 equals 6. Now I'm going to use the division property, and as a result of the division property, we have our answer y equals 4. I would strongly recommend that you write that equation somewhere else and try to follow the same steps in the proof without looking at your notes. Next, we're going to do 8 parentheses x plus 4 minus 2 parentheses x minus 4 equals 58. So let's go ahead and solve it over here. 8x plus 32 minus 2x plus 8 equals 58. I'm going to combine like terms to get 6x. 32 plus 8 is 40. Subtract the 40. 6x equals 18. X equals 3. So again, our first statement is always the given. What did we do next? We distributed, and we got 8x plus 32 minus 2x plus 8 equals 58. That was the distribution property. Then we combined like terms. We're going to just call that simplify. Now we need to use the subtraction property, but before we use the subtraction property, we're going to use the reflexive. Now I can subtract whatever I put in the reflexive property. So 6x equals 18 because I subtracted 40 on both sides. Again, I'm going to use the reflexive before I divide. And that's how you do that.
I've been waiting way too long.